Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is State Representative Rena Moran, District 65A in St. Paul. Yesterday's news in the Chauvin trial was certainly welcome. But when Black men, women, girls, and boys continue to lose their lives at the hand of law enforcement, hearing one man ruled guilty only provides limited comfort. Last summer, we started a difficult work to ensure people in communities like mine can have safe, respectful interactions with law enforcement, along with the accountability and justice they deserve. In this bill, we continue the important reforms to ensure that our state public safety framework has human rights and human dignity at the forefront. As we advance a state budget, invested in public safety is one of our core responsibilities. Through the reforms and investment in this budget, House DFLers are moving us closer to realizing true public safety for all Minnesotans, no matter where they live or what they look like. And with that, I will pass it on to Chair Mariani.
Need you to unmute, Carlos.
Thank you, Chair Moran. Yesterday actually was not the end. A lot of people think that it is. It was actually one step. It was a very important step, but only one step of the big work that lies ahead of us. George should be alive today. We need systems that maximize and makes that possible, especially for our Black men and women in our society, for people of color in our society. Minnesotans have every right to have their human rights and dignity respected by their entire government, including our law enforcement communities. The bill that we're going to be hearing today has several important reform provisions in it. And our approach as House DFLers, frankly, is to both push reform for accountability, for transparency, for citizen involvement in the management of our reviewing our behaviors and our actions in law enforcement, making sure we have strong licensing practices at our state, but also resourcing our law enforcement, our public safety, to make sure that they have the tools so that when good practices and good officers are doing the tough work, they know we have their back and we know they have our back. And so I'm really looking forward to the debate today on a number of issues ranging from body cameras to de-escalation work to no-knock warrants. Vital, important work for us to do today. And with that, I believe Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Chair Mariani, and I think you correctly pointed out that the verdict from the trial yesterday is just one piece of this puzzle that we're trying to put together to make sure that all Minnesotans have a public safety system that works well for everyone, that values the lives of everyone, and particularly our Black and Brown members of our community that have for so long not had that valuation to the same extent of our other community members. The bills that we are moving forward should not be controversial. These are common sense things. These are things that anyone in this profession that want to make sure that the profession keeps the most honorable members in the profession and truly protect and serve should want these things to go through and should want these passed into law. We're talking about enhancing community oversight to make sure that the community that you protect and serve has more input and can work together with you to build more trust and to make sure you're protecting and to serve them well. We're talking about rooting out hate groups. No one wants that within their profession. We're talking about strengthening compliance reviews to make sure that our law enforcement agencies are staying up to date with their model policies and following those model policies. And if they're not, they can get the help they need from our licensing board. We're talking about improving officer accountability. That is one of the main things we have here. That is what we saw yesterday with the verdict in the Chauvin trial. That is what we want to make sure we have, because that goes a long way in improving the trust and the connection that our officers have with our community. I'm looking forward to debating this bill. I'm looking forward to seeing more action from our GOP colleagues and as well from our Senate once we move this bill out of the House. Thank you.
All right,
So Chair Jamie Becker-Finn of the Judiciary Committee, at the heart of this bill really is improving access to justice for all Minnesotans in many ways. On the judiciary sections in the bill, we improve access to legal representation in our court systems, for parents and child protection proceedings, increasing funding to public defenders, increasing access to court interpreters. We also expand important protections from discrimination, including long overdue updates to the hate crime statute, reducing discrimination based on past pay or for people who need public assistance to pay for housing. Finally, we make really important steps towards decriminalizing poverty, including reducing the impact of fines and fees for those who are financially unable to pay them, and ending traffic stops based solely on petty misdemeanor violations such as expired tabs or having something hanging from your mirror. This bill also includes a reform of civil asset forfeiture and long overdue improvements to protections for victims of violent crimes. Access to justice should not depend on a person's income, and our bill makes steps towards addressing that. This overall bill is focused on justice and equity and will positively impact the lives of many Minnesotans. Members should be proud to vote for this really important bill that's going to make lives better for a lot of people. And with that, I will turn it over to Representative Moeller to talk about the criminal sexual conduct reform that's in this bill.
Hi, I'm Kelly Moeller and I represent District 42A and I live in Shoreview. And I'm really excited about the reform provisions in this bill, especially those that provide justice for survivors of sexual assault. The recent Supreme Court decision made clear what many of us already knew, and that was that our laws did not provide accountability and justice for survivors of sexual assault. Survivors have been telling us this for years, and they're advocates. And they, after a couple of years, got together and gave us a set of recommendations, and this bill incorporates those recommendations. The recommendations include closing the loophole for voluntary intoxication cases, providing more justice for 13-year-old victims, and creating a crime of sexual extortion. Survivors also told us for the need to eliminate the statute of limitations for prosecution of sexual assault cases. And we also had survivor-driven provision related to National Guard members and having the BCA investigate sexual assaults committed by and against Guard members. So this is a bill that everybody can be proud of and that provides justice to a lot of Minnesotans. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us again on short notice. I'm Melissa Hortman, Service Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives. And when we heard the guilty verdict yesterday, I expected to feel happy, and I didn't. I just felt empty, and I still have that pain and heaviness in my chest and my stomach, and I think many Minnesotans do. And the reason is nothing that the court can do will bring George Floyd back. And I don't think I'm going to feel any better about Minnesota until we see some changes where we don't have to be mourning the loss of George Floyd and using a person's death as a catalyst to make changes that should have been made a long, long time ago. And the heartache of a family losing their 20-year-old son just a short time ago, you know, this is all still very fresh with all of us, this pain. I'm so grateful to Chair Moran and Chair Mariani for their partnership in the work last summer when we set out to show communities of color and people all over the state who were protesting and coming out, speaking up, that we heard them. We heard the cries for justice. We were pushing the Minnesota Senate, led by Republicans, as hard as we could. I think one of the most important reforms we adopted last summer was changing the standard on deadly force from a subjective standard to an objective standard. But it's not enough. There is more that needs to be done. And it's clearly not enough because of what happened with Dante Wright. So the work that we're doing on the floor today is about saving lives. It's about improving police community relations in Minnesota. For a lot of us, you know, Minnesota was a place that we bragged about when we would travel around other parts of the country, other parts of the world. And in recent years, it's really hard to brag when we have these disparities that we can't justify. We just can no longer tolerate. The time for action has been here. It's been here firmly staring us in the face since we lost Philando Castile. And the moment is now. And I am hopeful that Minnesota Republicans will join with Minnesota Democrats and that we can, in a bipartisan way, take a step forward and make Minnesota a better place to be if you're a person of color, a safer place to be if you're a person of color. And we really respect and appreciate the public service of law enforcement officers who respect the human and constitutional rights of the people that they serve. We laud their bravery. They are people who we call when something goes bump in the night, and we appreciate that service. We want only the best in the profession, and we want them to live up to the highest standards that we have for anybody in public service. With that, I'll turn it over to the Majority Leader.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Winkler. I'm the Majority Leader of the Minnesota House. The bill that we are bringing forward today is the kind of public safety that Minnesotans want. Minnesotans want to be able to trust their police department. They want to be able to trust police officers. They want to believe that a system exists for holding people accountable when they do wrong. Yesterday, we had a moment of justice in Minneapolis after that trial verdict was announced. But it isn't a moment that we are looking forward to make justice real in Minnesota. It is a journey. We have been on that journey in the House TFL for years under the leadership of Carlos Mariani, Representative Moran, and others who have really prioritized equity in our agenda, but particularly on the issue of criminal justice reform. Today, we are taking up a bill that is another step in that journey. We will not solve the problem of police brutality. We will not make every Minnesotan safe. We will not stop the problem of racism in our criminal justice system by passing one bill today, or even enacting all of these provisions into law. It took decades or centuries to build up the kind of system that we have today, and it will take time to undo it. But we can do it. Yesterday, Mahmoud Noor presented a jobs bill, and he said that if we dream big, we can achieve big. If we dream small, we will achieve small. We are dreaming big about the kind of public safety Minnesotans should be able to have. We are trying to take a moment in which we are horrified, but we cannot look away from, and use it as an opportunity to rededicate ourselves to achieving a big dream of public safety for all Minnesotans. That's what this bill represents today. We believe it is what Minnesotans want, and we call on our Republican colleagues in the House and in the Senate to join us along this journey. Senate Republicans met us partway last year. We were able to get some work done last summer through heroic efforts under really difficult circumstances. And we can do that again today, but only if they come to the table in good faith and recognize that we have a system that harms and kills people, and it needs to change.